Hello and welcome to episode 17 of the Vera Shafiq podcast, real and relevant discussions on business, marketing, technology, and digital. I'm your host, Vera Shafiq, and I talk to people in business and marketing who care about doing marketing the right way and want to be proud of the work they do. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe and review, and I hope you enjoy the show. And talking of doing marketing the right way, are you a digital marketer looking to sharpen the saw when it comes to your professional skills? In that case, I highly recommend the University of Florida Digital Marketing Certification. I'm honored to be a member of the steering committee for this program, which has been developed for marketing professionals of all levels and teaches you how to apply principles and techniques that drive success in marketing in the digital age. In this course, you'll get to solve real-world challenges and use practices developed by top companies, while digital marketing experts and professional instructors guide you through every step. Visit the link in the show notes for more info. And now let's dive into this week's episode. Hey everyone, today I wanted to talk a little bit about the different types of customer data that businesses can have at their fingertips and how they should be using different types of data, as well as touching on the deprecation of third-party cookies and how that's going to affect third-party data going forward into 2022. So a lot of people are talking about first-party data, but today I wanted to kind of unpack some of the different types of data that we could be working with as marketers. So first of all, let's touch on what first-party data is, because this is what we hear. It's the most valuable type of data. It's the data that stands the test of time. So what is first-party data and why should you be gathering it? Well, first-party data is a variety of data points gathered about your customer or your prospects. And usually there's one of about 4 different ways that you can gather this data. So it's either by having a pixel on your website or your app, and this pixel will track the behaviors and interests of anyone who comes to your website. So, whether they browse 1 page or 5 pages, how long they spend on your website, if they abandon cart, if they purchase, and all other kinds of data points. The other way of capturing first-party data is by getting their email address or their their phone number, or any kind of contact data that you get from your customers and store it in your CRM. Usually it's an email address. And then, of course, there's your list of newsletter subscribers. Again, that would be an email address. Or there's also social media data that you can gather through your social media channels. And again, all of this first-party data will get stored in your CRM and become a kind of a profile on your customer data set. So first-party data is awesome because of several reasons. One, it's true. It's a true statement of your customer. That is a customer that came to your website and voluntarily shared their information with you. So it's your data, you own it, it's very accurate, and typically it's going to be up to date as long as you're, updating your CRM and your database. So, we talk about first-party data as being super important now going forward, and now that third-party data or third-party cookies are being deprecated. The Chrome browser is no longer going to be allowing third-party cookies as of, Google says that's going to be as of 2022 sometime, probably early 2022. So what this means is that the third-party data that has been captured, with the use of these cookies, right? And third-party cookies are the way in which third-party data is captured, right? So what we're going to see is that this data is going to become a little bit thin. We're going to see holes in third-party data as the deprecation of cookies matures. And, the longer we go without cookies, the less effective third-party data is going to become. So we want to really think about our data on different levels and figure out ways to leverage the different types of data that we have on our customers and our prospects and really work smarter with the data that we have and work towards a strategy that's going to be future-proofed and allow us to grow and scale as a business without having to rely on third parties. So we talked a little bit about first-party data and what that is. And again, the best way to kind of make that strategy watertight is to give your website visitors as many opportunities as you can to share their email address or phone number with you on your website. So, this means offering lead magnets. This could be free downloads, free information, free consultations, anything that's going to be a valuable exchange between you and your prospects and customers on your website. So typically someone who lands on your website isn't going to be a customer, but you have to offer them something that they feel is worth giving their email address in return for. So you need to figure out what that is and create, a newsletter sign up form or a email sign up form on your website that allows them to share this data with you voluntarily. And once you get this data, there's plenty of things that you can do with it. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Let's move on to a type of data that isn't talked about as much as first-party data, but which can be super valuable to brands and businesses, and that's second-party data. So what is second-party data? That is someone else's first-party data that you obtain and use for your own purposes. Now, it's data that you can get from other companies or publishers who have an audience set that you're interested in. So, the way that you can obtain this is obviously you can pay for it. You can forge relationships with publishers and other brands and companies whom you're interested in because they own a first-party data set that could be valuable to you as a business. And then, you can strike a deal on that by paying a certain amount of money or potentially exchanging your data, your first-party data with them so that you can have kind of a mutual and beneficial exchange. And there are second-party data marketplaces out there and available to marketers where you can find this and kind of get hold of this kind of data. So, for example, if you're a brand that sells yoga apparel, you could partner with an at-home yoga meditation app brand or a brand that sells some kind of yoga-related, material or downloads or anything like that. So you're not competing directly with them. They're not selling apparel and you're not selling a yoga app, but your target audience is very similar, right? There's some synergies there. And so it would be beneficial to approach this brand and see if you could get hold of their first-party data. So you're not competing with each other, but you're mutually benefiting from each other's data sets. And the beauty of second-party data is it's a really nice way to scale your first-party data. Because in most cases, brands don't have a ton of first-party data. It's not as scalable as some of these other types. And it could be limiting to the amount of exposure and reach that you're able to get in order to, expand out and scale your business and grow your business. So with second-party data, you lean on another company to provide you with their data. And now you can be 100% sure that this data is privacy compliant. So it's definitely gone through the privacy checks and security of, making sure that whoever has shared that data is fine with them sharing it with you. And it's typically going to be more accurate, again, than third-party data because it's right from the horse's mouth, right? It's a first-party data set that belongs to a brand that has actually captured this right from the customer. So second-party data is a great way to scale and grow your customer database. And I highly recommend looking into that, especially as we go towards 2022 and start kind of facing some of the repercussions of the loss of third-party cookies. And then finally, let's talk about third-party data, which we kind of touched on a little bit. And that is data that is gathered from outside sources who are not the original collectors of the data itself. So this data is typically bought from large aggregators that buy it from disparate sources like publishers and brands. And, as a marketer, if you've ever targeted audiences through digital marketing platforms or programmatic platforms and DSPs, you'll know that you have available to you third-party audiences, which are segmented out by interest, affinity, in-market preferences, demos, and then are sold to you typically at an additional CPM cost. So this is the data that has been gathered through cookies, third-party cookies that have been placed on websites. And this is the data that potentially is going to become less and less trustworthy, less and less robust, and less accurate, especially with the deprecation of the third-party cookie. So, traditionally, third-party data has been used by most marketers. I don't know any marketer that hasn't used third-party data. And the reason being, it's just a great way to scale your marketing campaigns. It's quick and easy to obtain. It allows you to reach audiences that you otherwise would not have been able to reach. It allows you to test audiences that, again, you wouldn't have been able to test using your first-party data or even your second-party data. And especially performance marketing folks who are looking for, quick results, direct results, looking for conversions and sales rather than branding effect, have been used to using third-party data really heavily, and it's been a pretty effective way of getting traction and performance on campaigns. The other great thing about it is it's highly scalable, which I mentioned, and you can then use that data to create lookalike audiences from your first-party data. So again, it's very useful to enrich your existing data set with. Now, if you're a CPG brand, for example, who relies heavily on retail media, such as Amazon, Walmart, you may not have access to the first-party data that I talked about earlier and that I said was so valuable and that you should really work hard to capture. Because as we know, the platforms, the marketplaces such as Amazon and Walmart, typically don't share their first-party data. Well, they don't, right? It's a black box. So you as a brand do not get insight into who your customers are if they bought on a platform such as Amazon. So as a CPG brand of this kind, of this breed, you really do need third-party data to some extent. So again, there's no silver bullet to saying, okay, let's just do away completely with the third-party data targeting. But, these are use cases where third-party data still is going to be needed and will still need to be leveraged. So, what we do know about third-party data is it's not people-based, right? And by this, I mean it really isn't foolproof in the sense that it only tracks people on the cookie level, and that's the browser level. So if, for example, someone has viewed someone's website on a mobile phone and then went ahead and purchased the product on their desktop, that data has been lost, right? We've lost the trail of tracking, and the cookie does not therefore, partake of that particular behavior that happened. And therefore, third-party data isn't necessarily the best and the most accurate type of data to use. It never really has been, but, it's been good enough for us, for marketers to be able to get, good results and to be able to use it and target and expand their campaigns. So having said all of this, what is the best strategy for collecting data and making the best use of it? And again, we want to work smarter with the information that we have on our customers and prospects. And we want to really grab the low-hanging fruit, data sets first, and enhance them and develop them and make them more richer and more usable for us over time. So there's a type of data that I didn't mention yet, and it's something that, again, isn't talked about as much as first-party data and third-party data, and that's zero-party data. And this is something that is going to be a really kind of integral part of the marketer's tool set going forward, because it's a really great way to enrich your first-party data and to understand more about what your customers and prospects are all about psychologically, behavior-wise, attribute-wise, and all that good stuff. So what is zero-party data? Zero-party data is taking your first-party audience and getting them to share voluntarily additional information about themselves with you. And this could be things like, what platform do they like to shop on the most? What is their favorite type of product in your product line that they like to buy? Are they early adopters, or are they likely to wait? If there's a new product that comes out, will they wait, or will they buy it as soon as it comes out? How loyal are they to your brand? What do they like to purchase on sale versus things that they don't particularly wait for to go on sale? Who is likely to buy on a discounted item versus on a full price item, and vice versa. So you get the message, you get the drift. It's ways to take your email addresses and your phone numbers that you have about your customers. You might already have their geolocation and some other information about them, but it's a way to enrich it and to get a lot better, clearer picture of your customer profiles, and almost get a one-on-one view of every single customer. And the way you gather this is by, sending out surveys, talking to your customer basically, right? Send them a survey, put a poll up on your website or on your social media channels, put up a pop-up, an exit pop-up on your website that may ask them some questions before they leave. It could be even involve calling up your customers and talking to them in person. So all kinds of ways to really get in touch with your customer, communicate with them on a one-on-one level, and have them voluntarily, and that's the key word, voluntarily share information with you on what's going on in their mind and what's going on in their life and what they're looking for and what their pain points are, etc., etc. So that's zero-party data. And honestly, this is going to be the kind of holy grail of 2022, if you were to want to call it that, because, or, even before, you don't want to wait till 2022. You want to actually get some of this stuff in place starting now. It's super important that you start to put these processes and platforms in place to get this type of information from your customer, because we all know these things don't happen overnight, right? Putting in that system to collect that zero-party data is going to take a while. It's going to take some, development and some testing and some learning. So that's why I would say definitely get started on that ASAP, so that you're well prepared in advance of all the changes that are going to be happening. So what we've talked about is almost a kind of a funnel in itself in terms of data. So we can look at it as a data funnel. We're starting at the top with third-party data, right? We're using third-party data to get really broad reach and just a really wide audience and be able to test and learn there. And then as we go down the data funnel, right, you're going to go to second-party data, which is, as we talked about, the first-party data that belongs to other brands, and then you're going to make that your own data, right? And then further down the data funnel is the first-party data, which we all know and love. And it's, the best way to really get accurate, relevant, and true data directly from the horse's mouth. And then finally, there's the zero-party data, which is right at the bottom of that funnel of data. And the zero-party data is the enriched, enhanced first-party data that gives you a really clear look at your customer profiles to understand what they're all about and how you can help them going forward. Once you have all of this in place, The beauty is that you're now able to do personalization at some kind of scale, because now you have the ability to segment your audience out in some very granular ways, because you really have polled your audience and understand them a lot better than just high-level information about that person. And now you can go about getting your content super, super customized to each of those profiles that you have been able to strip and extract out of your data. Now, that word personalization has really come back into vogue again. There was a time, a couple years ago where all marketers were talking about personalization. Then it kind of faded away a little bit. It just became a word that was taken for granted. But now it's back again, and it's really back with a vengeance, because it's all about personalization at scale, and people marketing at the end of the day is what we are trying to aim for. And by people marketing, I mean we're marketing to individuals almost, or at least small segments of people who have specific attributes, traits, psychographic profiles. And so, personalization, I think, is going to be the word of 2021 and 2022. It's just the big kind of elephant in the room that really needs to be addressed at this point. And, I'm really excited about the fact that we are going to be able to give our customers a much better experience going forward, because we've been forced to stop using or stop relying on third-party data so much. Historically, marketers have kind of gotten lazy. And there's an analogy that I heard the other day in a podcast is that, we marketers have got really fat and lazy off the cookies, the third-party cookies. And it's time for us to wean ourselves off those cookies, right? It's time for us to get healthy and try and, stop relying on those third-party cookies, because at the end of the day, it's not doing us as much good as we think it is. And so, as I said, I'm excited to start leveraging some of this other data, zero-party, first-party, second-party data, to make the customer experience a lot more palatable, a lot more valuable, a lot more engaging for our customers, and being able to do it in a pretty robust and intuitive way. Well, I hope that little rundown of all the different types of data and how you can make best use of it going forward was helpful to you. That's it for today's episode. Thanks for listening. Well, that's it for today, folks. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did like what you heard, please subscribe to catch more episodes, and I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave a review and share with your friends and colleagues. Visit my website at virashafiq.com, connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Clubhouse, or send me an email. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time.